Hi students, how are you? Welcome to ED 914 for the spring semester. With all the confusion for the launch of the class and the class not being posted as an asynchronous class, I just wanted to take a couple minutes to support you and create this video so that we could review the syllabus together and I could support you through some of this process. So this course is really for teachers teaching various grade levels, and I've had elementary teachers, preschool teachers, elementary school, high school teachers, and really all collaborating together on the discussion board. And this has been very helpful for many students because they have an opportunity to really learn from one another and learn about the context that everyone is teaching in. So please take the opportunity and read other people's posts and find some time to respond to them so that you can gain knowledge from many other schools and contexts. In this class, you'll be really working to develop strategies so that literacy strategies are integrated into all content areas. The textbook that we have, which is the 13th edition of Teaching Reading in the Content Areas, really provides a lot of graphic organizers, a lot of strategic work for you to be able to incorporate into multiple grade levels. So I encourage you to really take a look at the strategies suggested in the text based on the weekly lectures to be able to tailor and modify things to meet your needs. So some of you are newer teachers, some of you are very experienced teachers who may have be teaching for 20 plus years. So you know strategies that you've tried, you know what works for you, and I ask you to be just open-minded with considering some of the suggestions within the text and giving them a try and seeing how they work in your classroom, and really take the time to be able to reflect, because reflection is such an important part of our process as teachers in order to adjust our instruction. I have suggested a few optional texts for you. They may or may not meet your needs, so please go on either Amazon or a website to be able to determine whether or not you think they would be helpful. I find that having various strategies to pick from really can help you to be able to refine your instruction or differentiate according to small groups and their needs. So Jennifer Saravallo's text, Reading Strategies text, there's also a Writing Strategies text, is organized by goals. So I ask you to think about students that may be in front of you and what goals may be helpful for them. So what would you like to focus on for their instruction? And then this particular text isn't one that you really read cover to cover. It's just sort of filled with multiple strategies and conferring prompts when engaging with students and anchor charts. So a lot of times students will use this for one of our final products, performance tasks, to be able to develop a strategy portfolio, thinking about 6 strategies that they'd like to incorporate in their classroom and try out and then reflect on. So that text is particularly helpful. The performance tasks that are listed in the syllabus are the Reading Response Learning Journal. So I want to clarify that this isn't a I read and write everything down that is in the text, sort of showing me that you've read the text. So the purpose for the Reading Response Learning Journal is for you to take some time, synthesize, really think about some connections that you maybe have to the context of your classroom, or what was a quote or something that stood out to you. What are some things that you want to really take a moment to pause and write about, and think about ways that you can engage your peers in the class. So really think about a way to make your post interesting, demonstrate your learning, and find a way to interact with others. So it's not really a place to just summarize everything you've learned, but really a place to summarize, think critically, and engage others. At times, there'll be a separate post, which is a discussion board question, right, which is connected to the reading, but it's something that I've designed that I want you to respond and think about. So the Reading Response Learning Journal is when you get to take the reins and you get to have a choice on what you'd like to focus in on or what you'd like to engage others in a conversation about. At one point, a point of your choice, you'll see on the discussion board there is a thread for literature share. So you're simply going to, at one point in the semester, suggest a text that you find meaningful and that you would like to share with others. There's an example on the discussion board. Many people post, the cover of the text, and then people will respond and talk a little bit and summarize the text. And most of the time, if people are in classrooms, they'll add an additional paragraph just saying, how they use it in their classroom and their students' response. And then that way, everyone in the class can sort of interact with the text and have a conversation with you and how they use the text. So it's another place to increase and add our learning. You will also be in one of our final projects is creating a strategy portfolio. So you will pick 6 strategies and you will structure sort of a portfolio. And I ask you to pick things that are meaningful to you. So a preschool teacher is obviously going to pick something different than a middle school teacher. And I would pick things that maybe I was going to be using in my small group or something that fit in with a unit of study that you have coming up in the next month. So this is a time for you to pick and choose and really organize some work that connects with your classroom and may help you with planning moving forward. Don't pick things that are just from the text or pick things that really solidify your learning and that are meaningful to your course content, while you're teaching students, right? So it meets both objectives. You're also going to teach 3 of those strategies and write a brief reflection on 3 of them. So you have 6 chosen, you're going to teach them, and you're going to write in that strategy portfolio how it went in the class. How did things go? Many times people will create a video of themselves teaching. A lot of times they don't include students, and they will share that in that portfolio as well. And I will show you an example of what that looks like so that you have a good understanding moving forward more towards the end of the course. And then finally, your literacy position statement is really a paper. Typically, it's about 3 to 5 pages long. Most of the time they're 5 and sometimes a little over. I don't deduct points for length, but you're going to pick a topic that really resonates with you, something that you are really thinking about. So right now, one of the hottest topics in our context of literature and reading is the debate between sort of a balanced literacy instruction and science of reading, or SOR. So there's a very critical debate happening on what are the best and most effective strategies that are researched and scientifically based to support students. Some people are taking sort of a middle of the road stance, saying that they really want students to be highly engaged, and they're integrating some of the science of reading research and really providing additional resources and decodable text and a much more outlined sequence of explicit phonics instruction. And so a lot of people are just taking the time to be able to reflect and be able to say, what is this all about? Like, let me take a moment to pause, and I'm going to include some resources, and I'm really going to talk about what's my position on this particular topic or these two topics. That doesn't mean you can't pick another topic. In the past, other students have written about the endless possibilities of picture books in the upper grades. And they've wrote about students' engagement and motivation and how they can synthesize their focused lesson and be explicit with strategies and then carry over that explicit comprehension work to upper elementary in chapter books. So people have written their position papers on that as well. So these are really your 6 major areas or major areas of focus. Every few weeks, every 3 weeks, I really go in and 2 to 3 weeks and take a look at your learning journals and try to provide you with some feedback on the Grading Center of Blackboard. Typically, over the weeks, you'll just periodically be getting feedback from me. It's nothing detailed. Really, the learning journals are for you to collaborate and interact and pause and reflect on your own thinking. They're really not for me to judge and say, did you read all of the fine print? Did you include in your learning journal this particular graphic organizer that was in there? So that's not really its purpose. It's a time for you to read, maybe take some notes, and then really just sort of journal and reflect and engage with others. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to pause. I'm going to switch over to an example of a strategy portfolio so you can take a look at the structure and that can feel a little bit more meaningful to you. You'll notice I tried to do that in a lot of your self-paced modules, but sometimes just having a conversation and listening while I share about it really helps you to be able to understand the expectations for yourself. So this is an example of a strategy portfolio. It's not an exemplar. It's just simply something that someone submitted. They still got full credit for it, right? So she has a table of contents with her strategies listed here where she found them. So you'll always want to cite where you found your strategies, what the strategy is, the standards that connect at her grade level to what she was teaching. So she tried to connect the strategy-based learning to the standards required by the grade level, how it was relevant to her students, so the context around that. And you'll notice that in the rubric, there's a requirement for some type of visual or anchor chart. So as you're working with students, you're going to want to think about what type of anchor chart or metacognitive support you're going to provide for students to engage with this particular strategy, to practice it either with a scaffold with a peer or independently. Like, how is this going to work in your classroom? So you'll notice the steps in the lesson are listed and what type of assessment that they were going to use and what the anchor chart looked like. So each one of the strategies is posted here. This is not the only strategy portfolio that I have. Some of them are structured a little bit differently, and I will later in the semester share those with you as well. Some people included their video, right? So this is a video of them engaging with this particular strategy, and then they write a reflection. So you notice that each strategy, you can see here the pages get a little bit mixed up, but it's about a page long. They're not lengthy. So there are 6 strategies that you will select, and based on your particular need in your context, in your particular grade level. So that's just sort of an example. This person got full credit. They met all the criteria. Other people's look a little bit differently, and I will share those in the future, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an example of what that looks like. The literacy position paper is simply a mini research paper. It's really sort of a speech or a conversation that you're having picking a topic, sharing some up-to-date within the past 3 to 5 years research around a topic that you feel passionate about, and just simply writing that. So the final week, this particular performance task will be due. So primarily each week you will engage in some reading. You will watch the lecture or video around the content. You will engage in the reading response learning journal. So posting that learning journal weekly, sort of keeping on that time. Responding to a question. So that's 2 posts on the discussion board. 1 learning response, 1 discussion board. And then as the semester progresses, you're thinking about collecting strategies along the way that may be applicable to your classroom, and then thinking about a topic for your position paper. So the pace of the class is pretty quick. You'll want to keep up to date with your weekly posts and responding to your peers and collaborating. So I'm just sort of watching the conversation. I am always pretty quick to respond. If for some reason, perhaps I answered your question in my head and I didn't respond to you through email, don't hesitate to email me again, just sort of as a quick reminder, like, oh, I had this question. I really, I don't mean to, bother you, or, but I'm happy to get the second email, because that just is a reminder, like, oh yes, I didn't respond to that. I'm happy to do so. So I look forward to learning with you. I hope you enjoy the course content, and hopefully this video is a little bit helpful for your launch of this class. Take care.